And I'm back again. Hey guys, it's Raven the Devil. Let me see if I said that clearly for the translator in the AI. I'll tell that story maybe as a bonus sometime. But Raven the Devil here, and don't know what I'm going to call this yet, but another episode, if you will, of me talking at a camera about things that have happened to me before. So, what is today's video? Well, today's video I'm going to talk about probably if I had to think of the worst experiences I've gone through sheer stupidity, things that led me to an otherwise unfortunate place in my life, this has got to take the cake. Now, the one I put up from when I was 17 with the unfortunate unlifing of a person who stepped in front of my car and the PTSD that ensued from that, that's another video. It's on this channel. You can see it. So it's going to be a bit of a long one today. And since that's the case, I'm going to give you guys a minute while I talk about something else to go and get a drink, go get some snacks, if you will, because this is a fun one. It's about the Battle of the Behemoth. Leaving that there for a minute. Also, want to caveat before we get started, apologize about two things you can hear in the background. One, the DJ has, well, I guess you'd call me a DJ still. I have two pit bulls behind me somewhere. They are big old love bugs, and they are my shadow whenever I am home. So if you hear licking or chewing or even insane noises, that's probably them. I blame them completely. That being said, just as I started setting up for this, I don't have the vehicle today, and there it is. You hear it? The effing beep. CO2 or whatever is going haywire again. And I got to go get a battery for it tonight. Anyways, go get your snacks. We're going to talk about something real quick, and then we're going to get on to the Battle of Behemoth. I need a drink myself. Anyways, so I mentioned in a previous video, I think it might have been a live one that I did, that I'm going to be appearing elsewhere in a production capacity. Now, we don't have a title for what I'm going to be doing yet or exactly what I'm going to be doing, but we're keeping it in the family, so to speak. And I know I was randomly introduced today as Raven the Devil in their YouTube chat, but I'm going to out it a little bit more in my own video for shameless self promotion. And since I wasn't asked, this isn't a placement or product. I'm just going to talk about where I'm going to be. But at your fairy tarot godmother, I believe is what it is, but it's Christiana Gaudette Tarot here on YouTube. That's right, Christiana Gaudette Tarot. I'm going to be helping make the show more interactive and help her concentrate more on what she's doing while I get to do what I'm known for, running my mouth and being snarky. Yes, that's right. They don't want me to clean it up at all. They want me to be the co-host I've always been when I did shows like the Real Radio Show in New York City on 1140 WGBB. Anyways, have you guys had enough time to get ready for this story? Well, I got to get some notes, so bear with me. This is the first time I'm actually sort of setting this up. I don't read from a transcriber. I'm just going to go off the top of my head. Can't you tell I'm stammering over my own bloody tongue? So, go check out, by the way, Christiana Gaudette Tarot, Gaudete, if you don't know how to spell it. And let her know I sent you. Say, hey, I came from Raven the Devil. So, where to begin here? Now, I had lived in Massachusetts, and it wasn't a good experience. Now, I've only briefly touched on this a few times. I started in this online thing in 2001 to 2003 in there, and I was going through some really rough times with my kid's mother. We were on our slow roll to breaking up. And through the chaos of 2004 to 2010, I went through several relationships, several homes, several opportunities, people, you name it. We'll talk about those stories someday in maybe a members section because some of these I don't want to get sued for if I talk about the people involved. But needless to say, it led me to homelessness in 2011 when I lost everything. And I mean everything: my home, my car, my things, my daughter, all of it. And this next experience was a result of North Carolina, Massachusetts, and then ultimately Cheyenne, Wyoming, where I met the Behemoth. But to get there, I got to at least caveat I went through a last remaining toxic relationship in North Carolina that broke the spirit of the guy you guys probably would remember from the Vault of Metal. Annihilated that guy completely. I spent several years in a fog, not knowing uh, what came out of where, or what I was going to do, who I was, or why. And I ended up going up to Massachusetts to what I thought was going to be staying with friends. But the boyfriend of said friend did not like me, and despite the fact that he lived on my couch for several years rent free, I was not bestowed the same honor. And I ended up in a almost 200-year-old building that they lovingly called the Heartbreak. Now, Roy, I know you stalk what I do, and if you're hearing this story, you're in it. Now, at the Heartbreak, Roy Boy, who I still know, and this guy named Brian were friends of mine. Brian, unfortunately, due to the summer of the Boston bombing, passed away due to extreme heat. And that really set me down a path a bit because I'm tired of seeing people go away. And the heat got him, and we were all optimistic. Last thing I said to him, "You'd be back in a few days. We'll be watching your show and sitting at the round table at no time." 2 days later, he was gone. And this summer, where we were in Massachusetts, was infested with bed bugs, and I mean infested. When I got in touch with bodyguard Drew, who ended up being a co-host on the Raven's Edge radio show. Wow, can I say that right without tripping over my tongue and dentures? Raven's Edge radio show. See, it's been a while since I've publicly talked and had to enunciate. And well, I got a hold of Drew during this summer chaos, and we worked out me catching a bus from Boston, Massachusetts. Yeah, Greyhound. Yeah, I'm talking into the mic. Sorry, radio guy. I should be looking here, not here. Anyways, yes, took a Greyhound to Wyoming. Not a fun time. Not at the beginning of September, and not certainly the way I looked. Because one of the more interesting experiences, if you've never experienced a bed bug infestation. See, I told you, been a while. Um, they can get mean, and despite the comedy of errors the bug guy was in this building, and I really, if Roy's watching this, you can tell him too. This dude was like 70 years old, wore no breathing gear, went in with a cigarette hanging out of his mouth, going, "I'll get these bugs for you, don't worry." And never worked. It just made him mad. It was like they got high off of it and decided to feed on us, because when I got on that bus, the entire backside of me, from the top of my hairline to my ankles, looked like I had leprosy. And I was avoided for the entire, I think it was 6-day trip. That was not fun, let me tell you. So that led me to getting to Wyoming, staying with Drew, my retired law enforcement friend, and bodyguard at the time, thus the name. And now a member of BACA, the last I heard. And congrats, by the way, Drew. And yeah, I keep saying and. I'll stop that now. So I was on the internet, and I started a conversation with this person that was in Cheyenne. I just moved there. I hadn't really had a feminine friend, if you will, in almost 2 years. And I wasn't necessarily lonely, but you know what? I wanted someone to hang out with that wasn't my friend Drew, that might do a few things of an herbal nature, where in Wyoming, that is, of course, unfortunately against the law. I don't encourage that sort of behavior in any stretch, but I suffer from chronic pain. It is my choice medication for relief. That is why I live somewhere where I have a medical card. Just saying, don't break the law, kids. And Anyways, that was the full intention of me going over there, was to find a little bit of relief, hang out for a little while with someone that wasn't my roommate, and go home. Well, let's just say my stretch was not as dry as the other person's. And, well, when you give a dog a bone, he likes to play. What? I'm a middle-aged man. I'm single at that time. Believe me, though, I deserve the ire. Trust me, I deserve the ire, but I'll get to that in a minute. Anyway, so in the course of this just for fun FWB sort of thing, I was asked to be a more authoritative role to youngins. Now, just prior to this, I had a leather jacket. If you look at my pictures or you knew me back in the early days of the Vault of Metal, you'll remember my leather trench coat, the one I wore on stage when I emceed and did comedy. Well, her 6-year-old took a pair of scissors to it and got a 5-minute timeout. That was it. I won't go get serious with somebody that couldn't even pay me back for the damages, you know? And actually got upset that I was mad about it. But they're just a child. You need to forgive them. Not for this, you don't. This is destructive behavior and it will only carry on. But, anyways, didn't want to be the parent, so I went home. And after several days of cajoling, and now I should mention as well the Behemoth, who I am talking about now, rivaled me, if not dwarfed me in size, thus the name. I'm not a picky man, and at that time I had no self-esteem and I was taking whatever came my way. Life happens. Sometimes you go pretty low. And at this point, I had pretty much lost every friend I ever had. And I was basically trying to leave Las Vegas. I'm making these references so I don't get hit with some sort of censor axe. And, well, it's more colorful that way. If you haven't seen the movie, great movie, Leaving Las Vegas, Nicolas Cage. Anyways, so it got late fall. And as a result of my car accident, and another thing I'm going to talk about a little later here, possibly as a caveat, one of the other big stupid mistakes I did when I was 17. And as a result of this, I have soft teeth, and I lost a good portion as a result of the accident and this. And I had 19 teeth pulled. Not the smartest thing I could tell you. If you ever decide you want dentures, don't pull 19 at once, especially if you've got a taste for hard liquor and no crazy women. Because I did, and I was enjoying my Percocets with my whiskey that day. Oh, yeah, if my family's listening, yeah, your brother was a piece of work at this point, let me tell you. And I went home. I took the car before I drank, and I told her, look, Behemoth, I'm going home. It's snowing. I'm going to drink. I'm going to pass out. And when I wake up, I will bring the car back. Turned out to be the case. Long story short, the back end of the car got whacked. My memory on it's a little foggy, but to my memory, I hit a telephone pole. The law says I hit a car. Or, no, the law said I hit a pole in a parking lot and drove away. Who knows? I don't remember. Anyways, I wouldn't trust my judgment from that time. I had quite a bit of booze in me because the incessant phone calls that she gave me because her cat was on the porch and might get cold. I love animals, folks, and not just on my plate. I have a cat, too, that rules my house. But in this instance, the cat was 35 pounds covered in hair. I think it would have been all right till I woke up. Anyways, I get to her house. Argument ensues because of the car. And I just go, look, I haven't got time to deal with this drama. I'm going inside, I'm going to go to sleep, and then I'll get the hell out of here. I'll leave. I was done with it. Next thing I know, I'm woken up to 6 members of law enforcement surrounding me. And now, mind you, folks, I drank 2/5 of whiskey. I wasn't exactly awake. And this is all pieced together from what my lawyers and the police and the testimony and everything else I know. Apparently, I asked if I could finish my cigarette, and then I got in the car and sang along to the Lion King music because they were trying to irritate me, see if I could get mad. You should see the video. There is a video. There really is a video out there of me drunk in the back of a police car in Cheyenne, Wyoming, singing along, "A Weem Away, a Weem Away." Yeah, yeah. I saw it in my lawyer's office. No, they didn't give me a copy. No, I don't know how to find one. But if someone has it, I'll play it on the channel. I want to see it because I think it'll be funny. I'm no longer that guy. It'll amuse me too. Anyways, long story short, the next time I became conscious and fully aware with a massive hangover, I was surrounded by cinder blocks and steel beams. I was under arrest. Sorry. I needed that because it was 5 days later when I found out for what in front of a judge, so to speak. I'll keep what I know about the judge and all that to myself because, secondhand talk when you're in jail. But needless to say, the judge that I was in front of was on a screen. Just in front of me, two people ahead, they had a child molester. Sorry if I get banned for that word. But yes, a youth affected person was let go in his own recognizance after assault of a small child of the feminine kind. So I figured, well, if they're letting him go in his own recog, at least I should be fine. Nope. Assessed bond $5,000 because I just moved to the state and didn't have a local ID. I get to go to jail until pending bond hearing to assess if I can bond myself out, which didn't happen for 7 weeks. I was granted a public defender, sent down to a pod. In this preliminary 2-week pod, while another one opened up to put me in, I had the pleasure of staying there with a double murderer. I'm not going to tell any more of that. I tell that story if you know me, but I won't tell that one on the internet. If for some reason he sees this and says I can, maybe I'll interview him because it's the only time I've ever been around a convicted double murderer who admits to it. I played Monopoly and chess with him, though. There's a funny story there, but not for here. Anyways, so it was 7 weeks, and at one point there was a minor attracted person, another one that was actually in there with us getting ready for trial, and I wasn't seeing anyone or hearing anything about what was going on in my case. Even my own family believed I was guilty. I was being charged with assault of a domestic partner, strangulation, and a couple other things. I was looking at about 10 years in prison. They weren't letting me out. I was in for 7 weeks. And I met with my attorney, who was amazing. She was just fantastic. She was kind of a rep around the lockup because, well, she was good looking. Hold on a sec. I just realized something I have to get from a shelf behind me. I should have grabbed that. I don't know why I didn't. Yeah, another time. There's a mug. I have it over there, and I'll get it later. Uh, of the cup that I had while in that lockup. Anyways, after 7 weeks, locked up, no contact, I started writing this letter. Now, I'm going to touch on this letter because I've mentioned it before. I wrote 180 pages, and trust me, with 4 pages a day, it's not easy, but that's how long I was in there for. Started out an apology letter. It turned into, wait a minute, I'm talking about honest stuff here. And I actually wrote down the truth about myself in this letter. I still got it, most of it. And in it was all the truth of why I was acting the way I was. And I was honest to myself finally for once in my life. And here I was locked up facing 10 years. And I realized I was to blame for everything, that I put myself here, not just the choices I made in my life, but my attitude, carrying a chip on my shoulder for 30 years, not allowing myself happiness because a guy walked in front of my car once, denying myself success because I felt like I was an imposter, a fraud. That's why you guys saw me disappear. That's why what happened when I had everything going for me by the time 2016 happened with all the people listening. Everybody wondered where I went. Why, whenever somebody offered me a podcast, a co hosting position, if it wasn't a paid gig, I didn't take it because I'm sorry. After 20 plus years, I've certainly got the 10,000 hours. And I wanted to fix me, honestly. Like I said, I was trying to leave Las Vegas and I was trying to exit the planet Earth through alcoholic and other means. And, in 2011, I successfully checked out for 7 days, 4 in a coma, and then I woke up and really wasn't around. But then this happens. I'm locked up and I had to accept that I was to blame. And mind you, everything that I also did in that time leading up to that point, I was to blame for, and afterwards as well, because I still wasn't healthy after this for several years, not until 2017. But this finally goes in front of the judge with my attorney for the bond hearing 7 weeks later. And now I have this thing that I'm betting a good portion of y'all have never even heard of. In the 90s, because I wouldn't narc out a friend who left a crack stem in an old piece of dumpster dived furniture I had, I have a misdemeanor cocaine charge. In front of the judge, the district attorney said, "This is the reason why I was not allowed to leave the jail. I have a misdemeanor cocaine charge from 25 years ago, 21 years ago. And because of that, I should not be allowed even to bond myself out, and I should stay in until June 23rd for trial." This was January 2014. I had been tossed into lockup 7 weeks earlier at the end of November, beginning of November, even. I spent Christmas in jail. And I even, no offense to my dad, this is how much they believed it. He sent me a letter I still have that says, "Well, you've got yourself here. Whatever you've done is your mistake. Here's $75. You better make it last." Got it on Christmas Eve, except he didn't send the right denomination or the money. It got sent back. So my Christmas Eve, I thought I was going to get commissary. Nope. The money was rejected. Here's your letter. I don't know where that came from. I guess the dry irony of the laugh. But when we go to trial, afterwards, the people who I had to get a scram, part of my bond agreement, and that was a tracking device that made sure I didn't drink. And I was forbidden to go anywhere near her. So she also kept all my stuff, and I don't know whatever happened to it, including pictures of my daughter that I can't replace and I'll never get back. And so I got out, and my roommate honestly was angry with me, and I was self destructive and made some friends that weren't good for me. But all in all, I survived and weathered this 6 month storm by working at a cab company for $20 a day, having to pay $12.50 to the state. Yeah, $20 a day answering phones, 12 hours a day in Cheyenne, Wyoming. Y'all know who you are. Slave drivers. But I was so desperate to stay out of the box that I did whatever it took, no matter how much I didn't make. $7 a day, I can make that stretch. Trust me, I lived on it and partied on it too. because I wasn't sober yet this time, and losing everything killed my sobriety. So I was once again an ASS. Now I know what rational recovery stands as I looked it up last night. Addicted substance seeking. So yeah, I was an ass. But the day of trial finally came. And right out the gate, I wanted to play the calliope and have the circus music going because the first day of trial was ridiculous. First off, they were going for the maximum penalty on me, and the DA's name was Manlove. And they came all guns blazing, and then they get to a witness for the defense, well, the prosecution from the hospital, who is the expert in assault, who said petechial hemorrhaging could only be seen in the cheeks once you've performed an autopsy. And that was the hardest thing not to laugh at I'd ever heard in my life. No need to go into it, just saying that was said. By the end of the day, all the law enforcement, all the experts, everyone but the plaintiff. We were notified before trial she was not making an appearance that day due to anxiety. And I was nervous at the end of the first day. I go home and I got to go back the second day. And it's delayed till after lunch. That made me nervous. And it was over in 3 hours. Literally didn't have to get up on stand myself. And then they deliberate. And I'm nervous during this time because, it's 5 in the afternoon. They come back before 6. Acquitted. Both charges. First day I was acquitted of the minor charges. I couldn't believe it because what happened the second day was almost insane. The district attorney came to us and told us what was going on, and because of my right, the 13th, I think, to face my accuser, she wasn't going to be there. They couldn't find her. She disappeared. So I wasn't going to face my accuser. My attorney wanted to immediately have the case dismissed. She said she was going to fight it, said they could prove the case despite it, and they wanted to continue anyways, and the judge went with the district attorney. And then they call the jury in and proceed to prosecute the remainder of the case without the witness. And then we also find out the gold nugget was the star witness for that day was the head of the emergency room, who had just been arrested for assault with a deadly weapon, strangulation, and assault of a domestic partner. That was the main witness that day, them and the person saying I did what they did. So they carried out the last few witnesses, and it was over. They acquitted me. I did a radio show that Friday, Celebration Day. Now, this caveat's the second part. There may be an extra video later on when I talk to the ex-husband of the Behemoth, who I became friends with as a result of that show. See, when it went down, he came back to Wyoming from Oregon, and she had him convinced I was this dangerous, evil human being. And we encountered each other while I had a scram. I couldn't get into any trouble in a pharmacy. And I had to tuck tail and run, something I'm not used to. It's quite humbling thinking you're going away to prison. A lot of the guys that I was locked up with were. And it wasn't good by any stretch of the imagination being in there. And it was very difficult because I don't like being in a box. And I'm sort of like the old meme about Robert Downey Jr. And I'm allergic to handcuffs. But because I couldn't get out of my own way, and because I couldn't get over, things sometimes just happen. There is no reason. There is no rhyme, no purpose. They just happen. And lastly, despite these things, I'm allowed to be happy. Still dealing with learning that one. After the accident, I thought I'd paid enough in life, and then I carried a ship of vengeance. And when I started to lose everything, I really did burn a lot of bridges because all I cared about was making sure my daughter was fed and I had a roof over my head. But I found this funny, and before I move into the special mention part of this, as it doesn't seem to be too terribly long yet. Yeah, maybe one day I'll get her ex-husband here, and we'll actually talk about this from both perspectives because yeah, he hated me until he heard the radio show about what I went through. And the irony was the public defender I had represented him in 7 times. 7 times for the same thing she was doing to me, and I couldn't use that in court. So remember, folks, the message of the day. Oh yeah, you probably can see it. I just can't because of the way I have the text file in front of the camera so I don't look at myself. Don't be a Richard. Mantra of where the spouse creature works at. It's a good one. Unless you're my producer Richard that I had for the Vault and Raven's Edge. It seems like June is a terrible time for me, though. And I'm not going to go too deep into this one, but this is as close to maybe touching on something that is of a sensitive nature. Meaning, don't let kids do dumb stuff sometimes, especially ones that might alter their lives. I am making no implications or allegations here. In 1988, on June 17th, I went into the hospital to be prepped. The next morning, I had a proximal gastric bypass known as a Rulon Y, which is no longer performed because of a bunch of people who didn't make it. It worked for a while and then it didn't. It still doesn't work. I have to do a lot of things that normally most people wouldn't have to do. But that's why my teeth are soft. And it was because in the height of the fitness 80s, I didn't know I had an inactive metabolism. And despite having a paper route, despite being active, despite always doing something and up to something, it was the 80s. We didn't have the internet. Though I did have a BBS. I couldn't lose weight. I kept getting bigger. It was the food, probably, but still, I just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger in that direction instead of that direction. And so, because of my parents' affluence that they had, I demanded with my father because I wanted to date girls. Didn't use that language, but Gen X, you know. And my mom argued all the way to the operating room, and my dad and I got my way. And 40 years later, almost, I really wish I hadn't have done it. Trust me, the fistful of vitamins a day I got to take just so I can get out of a chair ain't worth it. Ain't worth it. Change your psychology and not your physiology is all I'm saying. No matter what it is, no fat is worth a knife. There you go. There's your public awareness message from Raven the Devil on whatever the hell I need to call this new show. That's the final thing I wanted to bring up, folks. If you guys got ideas, email me at ravensedgepodcast@proton.me before I'm stuck using that. I don't know. I want to try something completely new, go in a new direction. But I am stuck for a name. I've tried 5 different ones that I thought would be great, all taken by someone else unrelated to what I want to do, but still taken. So, this is your chance to become a top fan, or whatever they call this now, follower, liker, whatever. Help me pick a name. I'm old and dumb. Help me. Seriously, guys, I don't know what to do here. And it'd be helpful, to have a better name than that one, not because I don't like the memories, but since I'm putting everything behind me and taking a fresh step, perhaps an even fresher step is needed. But hey, thanks if you've made it to this point in the video. If you do think this is worth a share, a like, or a subscribe, go ahead and do it. I'm working on getting this thing to where I can get some extra days off from my day to day and do this more often and maybe make something of myself. And don't forget, Christiana Gaudet Tarot is where I'm going to start being in morning and afternoon shows. If you're a subscriber to her channel, you'll be able to find me there. You can't comment without subscribing, so go on over and give her some support and love. Hey, if you're into tarot too, it's a great way to learn about the tarot cards. And she even does card readings live. That's where I'm going to be. And I guess that's where I say I'll be back in just a little while.